Close those curtains, light some candles, and have your crystals surround you. It's a very merry mystical episode with guest Kristen Smith as we talk about ghosts, spirit guides, and the mysterious Camp Chesterfield. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a wonderful episode of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities presents the Hometown Haunts podcast. I am your host, Kat Klogo, and tonight with me in the shadows, but not for too long, are Jen Kohler and Christina Wald. You can follow us on social media. Wow. Social media, there we go. At Cin Cabinet Curio on Twitter, at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram, and also we love to hear your own hometown haunts, spooky stories, creepy cryptids, and fun local history. And you can write to us at hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com. Also, come join our Facebook group, Hometown Haunts, where people share their spooky stories just like you, and there's spooky love everywhere. We are an official podcast that can be heard wherever you listen to podcasts. Find us by searching Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities, and that is CINCINNATI, Cabinet of Curiosities. Please rate and review us there so other spooky history lovers just like yourself can find us. Link in the show notes. Thank you, Christina. Congratulations, Cincinnati Bengals, on your win against the Kansas City Chiefs. This may be why we're kind of scattered sounding tonight. You are going to the Superb Owl, Super Bowl. As of this recording, we don't know who you're playing against. Could it be the 49ers again? On our own show notes, we have or show news, we have Kickstarter information, we have all the merch, all the books, and they are signed except for from my little Hancock, and we are mailing them this week. We'll be doing a packing party later this week, actually. We also have an open call for submissions for the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities' third comic anthology. We have the locations. They are the Darby Lee Cemetery in Mount St. Joseph, Ohio, the Witch Hill in Alexandria, Kentucky, the Delta Queens Resident Ghosts, the Trenton Hatchet Man of Trenton, Ohio, the Oxford Light of Oxford, Ohio, and the Allendale Train Tunnel of Ellesmere, Kentucky. If you or anyone you know who is interested in participating in this year's comics anthology, proposals are open. They've been open since January 19th, and they run until February 28th, 2022. We are looking for those who are both an artist and writer or an artist and writer team who live or have connections to the Cincinnati metro area, that being Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Southern Indiana, or Southwest Ohio region. Every proposal should be for a comic that is about 3 to 6 pages in length with a character setting and plot summary. Sample art is also wonderful. Please also link to your social media accounts or portfolio. Submissions, also to be noted, should be PG-13 or lighter with no not safe for work content, body horror, or gore. Because we have a lot of kids who read this. There is a these are all paid positions, and we pay competitive page rates. You can find the proposal submission on our website, cincycuriosities.com. And last but not least, you can hear me, Kat, speak at the University of Cincinnati Communiversity on March 15th, 2022 from 6:30 to 8 p.m. The cost is $39. The link will be in the show notes, but that price includes that hour and a half of wonderful storytelling by myself and 2 copies of, a copy each of issue 1 and 2 of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities. Also, because I have a tiny tot at home, I do request that everyone wear a mask during the entirety of the talk. And because he's yet to be vaccinated and trying to stop Omicron. So, okay, not last but not least, absolutely last of our announcements is please vote for the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities Hometown Haunts podcast as a write-in candidate for City Beats Best of Cincinnati 2022. Doing so will help support the podcast and the project, in addition to letting the region know about the podcast. It is part of the city life area of the polls. And that's it for our show notes or show news. I don't know why I keep wanting to say it's notes. But yeah, we've got a lot going on and a lot for everybody to participate in. So that's wonderful. So on to tonight's show. I have Kristen to introduce. Kristen Smith lives in Indianapolis, but will forgive her with her husband Ryan and her 3 calico fur babies, Princess Tiger Lily, the beautiful Annabelle Lee, and Duchess Sophia Tolstoy Alexandrovic. She is a woman of many talents. She holds an associate's degree in surgical sciences, has a medical training in health insurance, and is a paramedic. Ooh, yay! She has also worked at the Navistar Foundry in Indianapolis as a paramedic, and for the last 4 years has worked in surgery with her specialty being cancer reconstruction. She's also studied and developed her mediumship at Camp Chesterfield in Indiana. I have so many questions about that and the entire process. So welcome to the show, everyone. Everyone come back. Hello, fellow Hoosier. It's I'm originally from Mishawaka, Indiana. So I say
Okay,
the Indianapolis dig with Hoosier love.
right. That's okay. I don't take it personally because I am not a Hoosier. So
Oh,
I'm a transplant.
I go the same way.
hmm
Not
hmm
originally a Buckeye, but here I am.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah, I am fascinated by Camp Chesterfield and your work with mediumship there. Jen has talked about your spirit guides on and off throughout the history of this podcast. So many questions, and you see ghosts too, which makes me incredibly happy.
Forgot to include that Christina is my best friend, and we've known each other for over 20 years.
ooh,
And
yes.
that's how she has been introduced to Kat and Christina.
Yes, that is very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, and
That's
she
great.
is totally like, Jen,
Mhm.
why are you on the show? Doing this with these two girls, she can't even form a sentence. Anyway. Oh, who day.
Hey.
Anyway, so Kris, I hear you have a very good first ghost encounter story.
I guess so. To me, it was just par for the course. I didn't know any differently. So when I have relayed it, Jen was just like, "Oh my God, that is amazing."
Goosebumps the
So
first time she told me. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it was interesting. Actually, I was right before the podcast. I actually was looking online at like the location where I had that first encounter, and where it was, and like the house and things like that. So yeah, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And the actually the house has been torn down; it's not there anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm just like, oh, that is so cool. Like I have very fond memories of. I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, or just outside of Jackson,
Okay.
and so I am a Southern girl by heart. And I can go right back into my accent like that, whether I'm really upset or really, really tired, as
Oh,
Jen
wow.
will tell you. Yeah. But yeah, so you want me to tell you the story?
Get to it, girl.
Yes. Okay, so we were talking back and forth. I think I was actually like 5, but maybe 6, like somewhere in between there. And I had gone to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night, which was not normal at that time. As a child, I slept soundly. But I woke up and I, do what those kids do. You kind of like, you sit up in bed, but your legs are still out at like that right angle. And so I had them out there, and there was a young lady sitting on the edge of my bed, the corner of it. And, I could kind of see through her, and, I just kind of looked at her, and I was like, well, hello,
Yeah.
and, I was like, are you okay? Because I saw that she had, a head wound on her right side. And I was looking at her from my left side, and I said, are you okay? And she put her hand on my foot and said, I'm fine. Tell your mother thank you. And I was like, are you sure you're okay? Um, and she just smiled very lovingly at me and said, "Tell your mother thank you, and you go back to
Mhm.
sleep." And she just literally told me, "Go back to sleep now."
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
So I laid down. I went back to sleep. The next morning at breakfast, my brother and I are sitting there eating cereal, and my dad's to work, and my mom's like rushing around the kitchen, and I knew she didn't. My mom just seemed off, but I'm a kid. I didn't know. And I said, "Oh, Mom, the lady from last night, I guess." I said, "She said to tell you thank you." And my mom just stopped, and she said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah," as a mom.
Mhm.
I said, "Yeah." And I'm just still eating my cereal. And I was like, "Yeah, she said to say thank you." And like my mom dropped something in the sink and
Mhm.
turned around and looked at me, and she was like, "I don't know what you're talking about," and started to like argue with me. And I remember I like slammed my hand down with my spoon on the counter, and I said, "Yes, she was there last night." And I was like, "And she said to tell you thank you, and I don't know what that means." Just very innocent as a child.
Yeah.
And my mom, like, she sat down, and she just went completely bleach white. And I never really knew what really happened. Like until a little while later, I overheard my mother and father talking, and my mom was like shaken completely. She's like, "She saw this girl and she died last night," and blah 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 blah. Well, fast forward to I don't even know how long it was when I finally pieced together or realized or was told it was a young lady who was jogging on the main road, which was kind of like a country road,
Mhm.
and she was struck by a car. It was in hit and run, and yeah, my mom ran out. She heard it. She ran out to go help her. Was doing CPR. It was doing all that stuff.
Mhm.
So, but she pretty much was, just immediately dead when she got
Oh,
hit. So,
that
yeah, it was heartbreaking. Just big head trauma with that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Was your mom also in the medical profession?
yes, actually, my mom was a CNA.
Okay.
So yeah, she knew. She's been a caregiver. At that point, she was actually running a daycare out of the
Mhm.
house. So and I remember that kids weren't coming over that day. So I don't remember if it was like a weekend or like she had called them off for the day because she was still upset by it, but I don't remember. But yeah, they weren't there that day.
No.
Yeah.
What does
Wow.
a CNA stand for?
Certified nursing assistant. So she
Okay.
actually worked in a nursing home and, you know, had a set of patients and helped them
Mhm.
with all their daily routines and
Oh.
such. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that is a stunning and very spooky first encounter. It sounds very similar to an encounter I've had before. I think I've talked about it on
Oh,
the show. So I'm sitting there like, yeah, that sounds a lot like a few different encounters I've had, like shades of too. But
yeah.
it always is fun when the dead give you a message to tell to a living person and you're just like, I'm trying to decode this the best I can. They literally just said, I'm okay. And then they just disappeared. And I don't know what to say. This is literally it. And you're like, believe me, please, a dead person, talk to me. So
I'm
yeah,
not insane, I
I am.
promise.
There's no
Yeah,
gas leaks happening.
you're right. Yeah.
Everything is shielded. The electric is fine. It's just yeah, they just popped into my room and sat on my bed and said everything was fine at
Yeah,
3:30 in the morning. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But, just that was my first experience in my encounter. And,
mhm,
um, and it was years later before I really actually like allowed my like consciousness put that together. And because I
mhm,
was, I grew up in a very, very religious household. So I remember going to Sunday school and we were talking about the Holy Spirit and, Jesus did this and, and so I was like, oh yeah, I had a ghost in my house, and
it's suddenly the Holy Ghost becomes a whole lot cooler when you can
right.
see them, and you're just like, "Man, I totally get it."
It
Like
just it terrifies the crap out of everybody else,
Yes.
you know. And I specifically remember, you know, we're sitting on a basement floor, well, you know, like Sunday school's going on and church's going on upstairs, and the teacher was just like, I need you not to, it's, you know, it's a sin to lie. And I'm like, I'm not lying.
Yeah.
And it was awful. It was so traumatizing. And so I blocked it out for years.
I only laugh because I highly identify with everything you're saying and lived through similar situations. Hello,
Very.
Christian church camp every single year through middle school and high school.
Yes.
Jen, are you dying?
Yes, I'm loving this. I knew you guys would get along.
You know, it's sad, but it's very, very true. You know, and you know, I've had my bouts where I've been like magnetized back towards it. I've been pulled towards it. I've been pushed towards it, almost literally, actually, at one point. Metaphysically, yes. Multiple different experiences. I don't know, Jen, if you've told them about when we went to Mansfield Reformatory.
She's only hinted at us. She's like, I've been to Mansfield Reformatory once. I'm like, how was it? It was okay.
I didn't experience anything there. I was there to take pictures. I dragged her along. At the time, I did not know fully that she could see and feel those things because she never told me.
So how many arms came out of the cells and grabbed you?
Me or her?
You.
Somebody
Kris.
grabbed me?
Not Jen. Oh yeah, the boys are very frisky there.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. Especially the one that was in the that hung himself in the downstairs, the shower house. That specifically. Yeah. I actually, Jen, I don't know if you remember, we were on the second tier and you were going down the cell block, and I was like, I don't want to go down there. And you were like, well, I'm going down there. And I was like, I'm not going down there.
Yep.
And I was standing there, pitch black, dark. And then as like, I see like them going further away with the flashlights, and I'm like, I'm by myself. This was not a smart idea.
No.
No. And I had, you know, instantly I had three different spirits come up and, you know, literally shoved me. I had another one scream in my ear. And I had another one pull and yank on my hair.
I haven't had that one happen.
Yeah, it was not fun. I've had that happen 2 different times, but yeah, I'm like, you don't get to touch. No. So
especially the hair.
Yeah, especially don't touch the hair. And so I beat feet and ran up the staircase, and so I was like, she'll find me. She's fine. So I got to like where there was actually like light.
Yeah, the bullpen.
Yeah, I was like,
I remember you were a little freaked out at one point, and we were sitting in the main room that was the cafeteria or something that split the off, that held the cell blocks together. And you're like, I just need a break. But you never told me why. And did we go twice or just once?
I've only been once.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you went with somebody else, though.
I went with my roommate from college, Jamie. So maybe I've only been twice total. I can't remember. Yeah. But Jamie and I didn't have really any experiences. I felt a tap on my shoulder once, but I'm like, I don't think that's anything. And then I showed you my dust ball pictures, that were orbs. And then there was one room we were in and it was in the living quarters. I did see a shadow person on screen because there happened to be a ghost hunting team there that was with Christine. And I didn't see anything like in person, but I saw something walking across the screen.
Yeah.
And then when I went with Jamie, this was also in the living quarters. I was trying to take a picture of the room, and my camera just would not work. It was fine the rest of the night. And
was
before
this a
that,
center room in the officers' quarters that had like little to no windows?
No, it had windows, but it was.
The room?
I can't remember. It might have been one of the offices, but it was towards the front.
Yeah, those are the officers' quarters. Yeah.
So the room that the ghost hunting team was actually set up in when you and I were there, that was actually the warden's bedroom where
Okay.
His wife
died suspiciously of a gunshot wound to the stomach. And that was her that was outside in the hallway. And I remember because I could see she was, profile, and she was walking past the staircase out in the hallway, and she tripped, obviously she tripped the triggers. And she kept walking back and forth very slowly, and then she seemed really agitated, and at the exact same time that she looked directly at the camera, and that some shitheads in the back, sorry,
well, we're meowing through that
there
one.
we go. Yeah. So there was some people in the back who actually were kind of goofing off and not thinking it was anything. And the warden shouted at that person and sitting in the chair to get out at the exact same time she was getting agitated and looked at the camera.
Yeah.
And like all hell broke loose at the same time.
Did they have all the different REM pods with the different colored lights? Because that's always fun when all hell breaks loose and those are all going off and beeping at the same time. And you're just like, it's chaos. It's okay. Just calm down.
Fine.
I don't remember. I mean, it's been a good 15 years.
Okay, no, that's before REM pods.
Yeah. It was just, it literally is like, it's when the first like ghost hunting shows really started to come out. And so they were using that technology, just, basically a motion sensor.
Yeah, I know exactly what they were using. EMF meters and a laser grid.
Yes.
And see, I just saw the shadow on the screen. I had no idea about any of the other stuff. Christine never said a damn word to me.
Actually,
it's
really rare. I think her name is Helen Glackey. It was her living name. Somebody's going to be yelling at me about that in their car. It's like, no, it's this. But she's rare to see, and she's very obvious because she's one of the few female ghosts that are still on the premises. The others are two nurses. But she's rare. You got to see a rare bird there.
She was pretty cool. I definitely got the sense that she is very protective, like, because he's still there. She's not going to let him rest, like she's not making it easy for him.
Right.
So,
good girl.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I know the entire the sons are still alive. Their children are still alive. So
really?
they have comments on the ghosts people saying that their parents are haunting Mansfield. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head.
That can't be easy.
No, it's very hard. It's an interesting perspective that this is a little tangent, but when you're seeing the dead and also doing shows like this, we're talking about ghosts of very real people who have very real families still alive.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're in denial, or they just don't believe that people are seeing their parents. And that's a legitimate stance to take, because who knows? Maybe we are huffing gas and seeing ghosts out in the middle of a field in Gettysburg. Sure. But it's just, I do have a lot of empathy for them, because my parents are dead. So it's I empathize a lot. So that's end of tangent. But their sons are still alive.
Okay.
And their grandkids. So
good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, Camp Chesterfield, what brought you there?
Oh, this is like, it was truly meant to be. So my husband and I worked at an insurance company and together. And one of the head reverends at Camp Chesterfield worked with us. And so I had always wanted to go there. I thought it was really cool, but I didn't know a whole lot about it. And so again, this was still during the process when I was like kind of reclaiming, you know, the subconscious and everything. And really actively, things were starting to really actively happen again. And I was like, oh, I can't really deny this. And I don't know what to do with this. I should look into how to deal with this a little bit more. So one of the jobs that my husband had actually was to pick up people from the airport, take them back to the, you know, to the facility, run them around for different things or whatever. So he picked her up, and she only lives here like certain times of the year or whatever, but she flew back in. She picked him up, and she actually invited us to a retreat that she was putting on for that weekend. And later we found out that really who she was, like in the spiritualist community.
Okay.
We just knew her. This was Glenda. This is Glenda. And so she had us come out, and it was a 2-day retreat. We stayed for 1 day. And it was amazing. Things started clicking and, you know, happening, and, you know, fast forward like weeks and the next time she came into town, she pulled me aside in the office and was like, I don't think you understand the breadth of your talent. And I was like, I don't know what you mean. She goes, I'm aware. So she advised me with one of her other reverends there to you know, continue on my, you know, journey and discovery and growth, which I've come a long way, but I've not done the full Camp Chesterfield program in any way, shape, or form. But I absolutely love going up there, and the grounds are just calming and inviting. And so when I do spiritual stuff, because, you know, Chesterfield's quite a bit of ways from where I live, and I live downtown. So I do a different spiritualist church that's closer to me. So, but yeah, it's interesting. It's been very, very intriguing. And I've learned a lot. The men and women up there are so talented and open and positive. And I just can't say anything negative at all about this place. It's wonderful.
So when you go there, you take classes. What are they focusing on? How do they teach?
Everybody's kind of got their specific, you know, area of talent. Some people it's tarot, some people it's candle magic, some people a couple years ago they were actually starting to try and get the board to allow them to do more with you know, with actual, like, you know, quartzes and rocks and do basically a, you know, a geology portion of it. I don't know if that ever came from it, but there was a lot of interest to get more depth into that. But just the majority of it was just learning to, you know, learning your guides, learning the basics of how they work, and the rules, you know, the tenets of spiritualism, and development. It was just, you know, and it's practice. So, you know, every session, there would be a lot of people there, or there wouldn't be a lot of people. And when I say a lot of people there, it could be somewhere up towards like 25. And, you know, for the people who are actually afforded the opportunity to live there, they also work, their home is also where they have a whole separate room, and that is for where they do the development classes. They do their you know, mediumship, you know, whatever classes that they do, it's attached to their home. And that's how you know, Chesterfield actually started. When they built it with, this is the amount of property that we have, we're going to build these homes, and, you know, how to maneuver so you have a life, and then here's the room, and how you make that delineal. This is your time, this is me time.
Yeah, you make your boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because Camp Chesterfield is only one of a few spiritualist communities left in the United States, if I remember correctly.
It is. It is
Yeah.
actually like, and people actually come from both coasts to come here. So no, when I got invited, when my husband and I both got invited, we had no idea just how special and how central and how big Camp Chesterfield really actually is. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it's a place that I've been wanting to visit and never have had the opportunity to go. And no one ever wanted to go with me. So it's
Oh
Jen
my
will go with
goodness.
me. Christina
They have a
won't go with me.
hotel.
Yay.
Christine
they
was
have a
looking at it last
hotel.
night.
Yes,
Oh.
they finally finished the hotel. The second floor is a hotel. It was built in 1945 as kind of like before, Route 66 Kerouac-esque was popular. That's what this kind of is. And so there are a couple of rooms on the second floor. There's dormitories on the first floor where you literally just rent the bed, but those aren't currently open, obviously, due to COVID. So, yeah. But it's a small community. It's very nice. It's very welcoming. They do events like once a month. They used to. I didn't look at the schedule yesterday, but of course their services are open and welcoming, and they just message only services. They do full moon services, new moon services. I mean, they have this is where they live. This is where they practice. This is their thing. So to invite the outside world to come in, it is quite humbling to go onto their property, and you're in their world. You have to respect everybody living or not on that property, but it's just so peaceful.
Yeah.
I love
imagine once you step onto the grounds, it kind of feels elevated. Like when like a lighter would be a good way to put it. Like you just feel the energy change, basically.
Yeah. I would love to. I won't tell you my first impression because I would love to hear yours when we go.
Yes.
So but there was an actual physical feeling that I had, and I'm sure it's different for everybody, but very cool, very cool.
Yeah. Ooh. Someday we'll get there.
Yes.
We'll get there. Oh, I've only done one spiritualist class. Just one. And I remember in that class, we had to do readings blindfolded to somebody. So we would stand blindfolded looking one direction, and somebody who we couldn't see, obviously because we're blindfolded. Wow. Way to go, Kat. Captain Obvious strikes again. Anyway, they would walk behind us, and we had to not just walk, but stand, and we had to read them. We had to say, well, you are this gender, and you are approximately this age, and this is how many spirit guides you have around you. You have to do readings like that. I don't remember how accurate I was.
Wow.
And so I remember getting one guy right.
Hey, that's great.
One. I think there may have been three, but like 3 different people that I had to read for, but 33% isn't bad.
No.
Jen, you're dying again.
Yeah.
I couldn't even do it, so I think you're way ahead of the game there.
There's someone. Yeah, it's
Those classes are hard. They're really hard. They push you. They push me. I worked with a lady where she had asked me, hey, can I come with you sometime? And I was like, okay, I don't usually. Okay. So I was like, sure. She came with me, and they were like, okay, Kris, you're up first. And I was like, great. And unbeknownst to me, that this friend, she went to psychics like every week and was like, live and die by this. I make decisions by this. I'm like, oh, honey, Okay.
Take a
So
step back.
yeah,
Eat some chips. Consider things.
Yeah.
Maybe not see the psychic that frequently.
maybe.
Maybe.
But I didn't know that. And then, so the conversation home was really interesting. But, I, did my thing, what I was supposed to do. I'd been into it for a couple of months, and I remember doing well. And the conversations home, she was like, I've never seen anything like this. She's like, I just like, apparently, like the whole experience just blew her away, and she was, profoundly moved by that. And actually, later she was like, yeah, I don't go to that psychic anymore. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, because there's a difference. So yeah, it's been intriguing. It's very interesting. In fact, it's so interesting that there's been such a poll lately, which, like, around me, going, this, I'm not going to say her name, but I'm like, this person's name, this person's name, this person's name. And I'm just like, well, that's interesting. That means something's going to happen, because I have this cacophony in my head, resounding her name. And sure enough, 2 weeks ago, there she is. And I was like, are you kidding me? And in a very poignant way, I was like, I just don't even know what to do with this right now. And I just keep, it's funny, my joy guide, she just constantly is laughing at me, just constant.
That is Raindrop. We've talked about her.
Raindrop, yes. I am interested in the spirit guides.
Yes. So what experience do you have with spirit guides? Like,
do you want me to go first or Jen to go first?
Well, she knows mine.
I know
my
Jen's.
One and only is Raindrop.
Well, for our listeners who may have missed that episode, what happened with Raindrop?
So Christine had a breast cancer fashion show last year, and we ended up staying in a hotel, and we were sleeping, and I toss and turn most of the time when I'm sleeping, and I had just kind of woken up, and I turned over, and as I shut my eyes and was falling back to sleep, I heard, "Hey, Jenny, I have something to tell you. Christine has to poop." Or something about poop. Freaked me out. But then when it was the poop, I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going back to sleep now. And in the morning, I woke up and we were just kind of sitting there. I said, so, Christine, did you talk to me last night? Did you say anything to me? No. Why? And I told her what happened, and she just started laughing. I'm like, what? She goes, that was Raindrop. And I said, who, pray tell, is Raindrop? And then she told me the whole thing. And then last night she was giving me a tarot reading, and Raindrop and I were having a conversation.
Oh,
yeah. She seems really fun. I like her. I think she likes me.
Very lighthearted.
Yeah.
Joyful.
Yeah. And Kris was telling me that spirit guides normally do not let other people know them. So
not unless it's like an emergency sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah. But so go ahead. So Kat, what are
sorry.
So I have spirit guides. They don't all have names. But oh man, it's really fun to explain over the air. So the principal one I have is Sam. Sam has been with me since I can remember. I don't know when I wasn't without Sam. And Sam is the principal one that talks to me and basically acts as a buffer between me and the dead. Because man, oh man, if I didn't have Sam, I would be piled on like what the Bengals did to the Kansas City Chiefs tonight. Yeah. With just ghosts going, hey, listen to me. Hey, 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 hey. I need you to pass this message. I need to pass that message. I need you to tell my wife this thing. And Yeah, you get it. So when I was young, like really young, I did get kind of over my head with too many dead people trying to talk to me. It's overwhelming. And you're just like, it's a sea of negativity and death. I don't know what to do with myself. But then Sam showed up and was just like, hey, I got it. And we made a little boundary. And so when I'm at locations, I allow things to be able to see me and I broadcast that delightful aura of mine around and say, I can talk to you, but no touchy, no touching the hair, no touching any part of my body, no tugging on anything attached to me, such as book bags, my shoelaces, anything. Also, don't freak out my friends. Like, you can show up, you just can't show up in your face. Like at Mansfield, where I had one of the officers in the central area on the second floor. It was all marble, or sorry, it's the chapel room. And he just apported right in front of me, like inches from my face. And I remember going, sir, that's too close, a little too close. And I could hear Sam going, yeah, back away, dude. It was just, and it was just shadow. It was inky blackness, and then I could see the rest of the chapel around me. And my friend, who's also medium, is just like looking at me side-eyed, like, do I need to step in and do something? Do you need assistance? And I'm like, no, we got it. We're fine. So, are you okay, Jen? It was the same.
I'm just enjoying this so much. But anyway,
it was the same at Penhurst, where I was walking down. I can't remember exactly which building's room it was. The name just fell out of my brain. But it was the top floor, and it's where the nurse had committed suicide there. And I remember walking past one of the rooms, and an entity bum rushed the door. So I basically saw, this is different than the one that bum rushed our group and actually smacked my friend in the face and then smacked another person and went through my arm. And I could just feel like that charged electricity go right through my arm. And I'm like, hey, but this is a different one. And the poor person did not know where they were. They just saw random people walking through what had been their home for decades, and they were confused. They didn't know where they were. They didn't know who we were, and they were scared. So they bum rushed us. And Sam was just like, no, that's not happening. And it stopped before it even crossed the threshold. So that's basically Sam. And then there's another one that I named Sarah. So there's Sam and Sarah, but Sarah's not always around. But yeah, it's Sam will just acts as a guide. Sometimes goes, no, don't turn left today. Let's turn right. Or little very quiet phrases going, you don't want to pick that apple. That apple's a bad apple. You want to go with the other one up there on the other side of the apple stand, or something. Very quiet little things. And it's like Jiminy Cricket coming in once in a while going, no, maybe you want to do a different choice. Do you really want to eat that cookie, cat? Do you really want to?
Yes, Sam, I want to eat the cookie.
And then Sam will be like, no, you're full. You don't need this cookie. You're bored and you're just eating. So put the cookie down. So Sam has multifaceted talents here.
Good.
So that's basically life with Sam. And now I sound like a complete fool talking about my invisible friend. But I used to talk to Sam when I was young. And then I realized when my mom looked horrified that maybe talking to your spirit guides out loud with full gusto was not smart. So now most of these conversations are in my head. Once in a while I'll blurt out. But
does Sam ever warn you about people?
Oh yeah. Like
yet she still does a show with us.
I hope Sam approves of us.
Sam did the background check and you're fine. So Sam, there's one person, and I never met this person face to face. This is a very interesting and strange story that will only fit in here. I was having dinner at a restaurant with Mike several years ago, Mike being my husband. And I remember looking out the window, and it was just a full bay of windows that you could see. It was at a, I almost said a strip club, but no, it was a strip mall. Nouns, cat. And and I remember seeing this man walk past, and he just looked evil, if that makes any sense. Like, just a bad aura, like, just bad all about him. And Sam just goes, "Uh-oh." And that was all I got out of Sam, was just, "Uh-oh," like, best not to go anywhere near the person. Don't go outside, just wait till they're gone. It's the only time I've had it. And I was just like, is this person oppressed? Like, spirit oppression by something negative? It's not the jinn. They're not after him. But because jinn are around a lot, and or elementals. But yeah, it's oh yeah, and elementals. Sam helps me with them, primarily when we're in large outside landscapes.
What is an elemental?
So strap in. Okay. Of course, this is how I'm interpreting things. This is not necessarily how everyone else does. But if you're at a location that is extremely haunted and really activity is just going off the charts, like we're at a ghost hunt, there are elementals you can contact if you are skilled enough, or if that's just what you're good at doing. And they a lot of times show up as green men, so extremely old trees that are on property, you can contact the green man. They're nature elementals of plant life, and they help soothe and calm things down. If you're sometimes like at at Stamsville Rectory, there is an earth elemental that actually is there that you can contact her. She'll do diddly squat because she's quite abused, but she's around. At Gettysburg, if you're trying to calm down, we saw an elemental, a group of my mediums and myself. The last time I was at Gettysburg, we saw one in the water. Took the form of a glowing blue swan. And it was right after we gave them the libations, which are just offerings to them to be like, hey, don't hate on us. We're here. We're just curious. We're just foolish mortals. So be kind with us. And generally, they were fine too. But they're genderless. They have a lot of influence. They're easy to contact if you're open to it. And but they can play tricks. So this is where the idea of jinn come in. And a lot of times where people will say, oh, there's a demon in my house, or I'm being oppressed. It's just jinn or elementals messing with you. So
they get bored, huh?
I guess in that great spiritual plane they inhabit, they're just like, hey, we're gonna josh this person. So
that's funny.
So that's a very small, very, very quick, like, not even Cliff Notes version of those.
So does everybody have spirit guides and they just don't know that they have them? What is the nature of this? Like, does everybody have some sort of connection and some just are more aware of it than others? Like, what is your take? Both Kat and Kris also having been to the Chesterfield, was it Chesterfield, right?
Yeah,
Chesterfield. Like, what indication do you get that people have guides but don't necessarily know that they have them, and how do you get in touch with them?
So as a spiritualist training, we're trained, everybody has guides. Everybody is assigned 5 guides, at conception or before. And these are your guides that will be with you until the day that you die. And they each have, individual things. So you have a joy guide, you have a protector, or what I call a warrior. You have the master, who is like above it, all of that. You have the teacher, and then you have the doctor. I call the doctor also the protector. That's why I call the protector a warrior, because that's how mine manifest with me. So it's much easier for me to put them in those names.
I call my doctor Who. I'm sorry I had to do that.
That's perfect. Perfect. Yes. So, we believe that everybody has them. Some people can connect to a few more guides than that. But everybody, you're a stick for human words to understand it. You're assigned. Here's your 5. These are the 5 you're going to get, and here you go. Choosing to, like, I was telling Jen last night, I knew Raindrop. I've always known Raindrop. When anybody says, oh, what do you like or whatever, I'm like, oh, I've always described myself. I'm like, when I'm playing around or whatever, I'm like, oh, I let my inner 5-year-old out. No, that's her. That is literally, it's her. And when I've done some trance work and stuff, she took over and just had a ball. She had a ball, and my husband was like, that, like, in certain situations, he was like, I think I just saw Raindrop. I was like, yep, you did. So, that's been, that's fun when I can connect in that way. But right now I actually only know 2 of my guides' names. I'm still working through getting to know the names of the others. I know what my master looks like. And, not everybody's master looks like mine. My husband's master, even at the spiritualist camp on that retreat weekend, he was like, yeah, I don't think we want to talk to him. And the people who were reading, like trying to help with the guys, they were like, no, we're going to keep that door closed right now. And they were like, we're not going there. So I was like, why? Well, why? Now I want to know why. But, I don't want to know why. I don't want to know those things. So I always practice with them. I try to incorporate them more and more as I continue to grow. It's because they're helping me grow. And I find it so fascinating that Raindrop made herself known to Jen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I still am like, what? Seriously? And that's when last night she was kind of doing the zoomies around the house, and we were doing a reading, and she was like, let me talk. Okay. Yeah. So, like, here I become this conduit between Jen, who's laughing her butt off, and Raindrop, who's laughing their ass off. And I'm like, seriously, I'm just really. So, so if you draw on them, if people call them like, oh, it's my energy, or it's my intuition, or it's, whatever, we mortals call it, as spiritualists, we believe, yeah, this is your guides. You have that intuition, like Kat, you were saying, Sam's like, no, don't think you want to do that.
Yeah.
Like my warrior protector, he does not talk. He is massive. He is massive. And, there's a lot of times where he's just like right in front of me. And like, he's just huge, this huge wall. And his name is Red Rock. And like, he's literally carved out of red rock. And he was human at one point. He was a Native American warrior. And so he's legit. I would not want to mess with him. No. So I tell him, like, I'm glad he's on my side.
Yeah.
So they're all around. There's the positive energy everywhere. There's different things, and they help me tap into it. But like, there was a story we went in today, and specifically I was looking at something in a glass case, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. And I got to this one thing. I was like, I'm out. And I told Jen, I was like, this is not a good place for me. And she was like,
Christina, it was the Hale oddity store that we went to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
which was a really cool vibe. Like we walked in, I was like, this is awesome. But this one particular thing in this one particular case, I was like, nope. And
Interesting.
Well, going to museums interesting.
Oh my God, right?
Yeah. Sometimes you see the people who are attached to those items, and it's like, oh, okay. This is a history lesson I wasn't expecting today.
Did you ever go see the Pompeii exhibit, Kat? No.
Sorry.
Because I'm like, I have questions if you went and saw that.
Yeah, I probably I'm interested to see who I would pick up.
Yeah.
I would, I told Jen, I was like, Kat, you're way more practiced at this than I am. I mean, I'm still trying to like be better at it, and I'm constantly working on it every day, and I'm like, and trusting myself and my guides that I'm not crazy. I'm not, and can actually like, I can close my eyes and I still see a whole other world, and it can be a little disconcerting and overwhelming. It's really awesome. But if I let my teeny tiny little human brain get in my way, then I'm like, nope. And, shut down. So, but I've got quite a network of tiny friends over in Indy, and we're working on this together and growing and doing different things. So yeah, I see my spirit guides a lot as teammates. We're all teammates. Absolutely. Yeah, and Sam's just the most outgoing. We're chatty. I'm not really sure, but there was something. Oh, yes, I grew my abilities on the mean streets of Indiana. It's just, there's a lot of interesting dead people you run into when you go to a lot of funeral homes. So yeah. So did Jen tell you about when I went to Crown Hill Cemetery? No. So,
about Dillinger?
Fun.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Go ahead.
You okay there, Jen?
Yes, I'm
not a cat.
Fidgety.
So for those of you who don't know, Crown Hill Cemetery is the largest cemetery, the oldest cemetery in Indiana, in Indianapolis. It actually has spiritualist ties specifically. The way that and so Kat, you've been there? Obviously?
I have never been there.
Whoa.
What?
I know. It's a surprise.
Okay.
We have a lot of places
like
to visit.
Waverly Hills, that is a place I've never been to.
Oh,
Wow.
Been there.
Yeah.
Been there. Yeah.
So there's two places now in Indiana.
Things to do.
Yes, for sure. So anyway, it's I love it. It's wonderful. It's beautiful as all get out. And it's just awesome architecture and just everything. So my grandfather, like step grandfather, actually passed. I think it was it last year, Jen? Or like, I don't remember. Time is just irrelevant.
I think it was last
2 years.
year, the year before.
Something like that.
It was right around that time. The story of that map or something being found in Indiana that was Dillinger's route. Or something was going on there, or no. They were trying to exhume him to see if he was really dead.
Well, not.
Or there was a story, something about that.
Yeah. So
is he a vampire now? What's going on?
No, because they think that he never truly died and was buried in Indiana.
So here's the thing. So anyway, we're dead and buried. My grandfather, fine, whatever. And I was like, well, I'm not.
Sorry. I know you're not saying, dead grandfather. You're just like getting on with the story.
Yeah. So that's not the story. So
No.
then I was like, okay, everybody's gone. I was like, I live downtown. I was like, I'm just going to, I don't ever get over to Crown Hill very often. And I'm like, why don't I? I'm having this conversation with myself out loud. And, I'm like, yes, I am talking to myself and not my guides. So,
Been there.
I was like, well, that's right. Dillinger's buried here. There's a lot of very famous people that are buried here. And so I had seen in the chapel, they have a pamphlet of like where the famous people are buried. And so I kind of knew the area of where he was. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go take a look. And of course, I didn't take one of the pamphlets with me. So this was a fun exercise in my guides telling me where he was. And they did, actually. All of a sudden, I just was like, okay, this isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. And I'm like, okay, are you going to help me or not? And then, so actually there was an elemental because the air whipped right through and just one leaf of all that are on the ground, one leaf moved. And I was like, oh, gotcha. So I started walking and then I was like, well, I'm still not there. And then, I turned one direction and it was like, no, dummy, turn around. And I turned around and boom, there he is. There's his family. And I was like, oh, so then I walked around and I was standing on him and I'm like, he's not here. He's not there. So the story is that when he was shot and apparently killed, that nobody got to see him. The family didn't get to see him. They didn't. And actually, Jen, I don't know if I told you this or not. His family's home is like right across the street from my house. Like,
oh, really?
Yes. The first store he ever knocked over as a kid on the other side of my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, you've never pointed that out.
Yeah. And actually the Dillinger family still lives there in my neighborhood.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So yeah, you don't mention John.
Hey, that's a song.
Right?
Sorry. Sorry.
No.
What would be the Midwest version of Encanto? Hot dish?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, sorry.
So everybody wanted him to be dead, right? And so he actually was supposedly buried in a sarcophagus of like 5 tons of concrete. And that's what's down there. I felt that that's what's down there. It's very cold, but it's like cold block, like rock. That's what it felt like. I was like, oh, he's not here. I was like, oh, okay, well, now let me try this out. So I went over to another grave and then another grave, and I was like, oh, they're there. He's not there. Okay, they're there. I was like, well, now this is interesting. And so what Jen's referring to is there was a couple years ago in southern Indiana, there around like Columbus, Indiana area, I believe. A farmer was out in his field plowing up, as Indiana farmers do, and unearthed a ball jar, an old ball jar, really old glass ball jar with, the metal lid, rusted on it or whatever. And inside was a map of back in like the late 30s, something, somewhere around there or whatever. And there were actual marks like written down, and it actually is all the route. I mean, the entire routes that Dillinger and his gang would take and would do, and their known spots that they knocked off. And there are dates next to each one. Well, there's dates after he died that are marked off. So in at the time, they would lick their pencil or pen to get it to write and write down. So so it was like, oh my gosh, in the world of, crime and, supernatural and everything, everybody's like losing their minds over this. And they're like, we want this DNA tested. we want it tested against, his or whatever. And the family has been blocking it and blocking it and blocking it and blocking it as an injunction. Well, about this time last year or whatever, maybe 18 months ago, I do believe they actually lost the last appeal on an injunction. So I don't know. I didn't follow it up. It makes a great folktale, right? It's amazing. And for me, I've been following it, and I don't know why Dillinger has always struck a chord with me. But he just has, and he fascinates still. So when I saw his grave, and I was like, wow, I kind of thought there'd be something more. You're like, oh, and he was so young. He was so young. So it kind of resonates. And then it was just kind of really interesting that I'm like, it wasn't like the cold chill of death. It's like, it's the cold of rock. So it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. So
do you think though it could have been just his crew carrying out what they had planned?
Well, they also
that's the most obvious explanation you would think.
Yeah, but they went on the handwriting analysis and it matches.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I should really follow up on that. I don't know if it'll ever it could be something where the family has said, look, okay, well, we'll submit, let you guys do this, but then it's sealed, like the document's sealed,
But why?
It's rather hard having a famous
that's
crime family member.
Exactly. And they're still alive. I mean, they literally go to school down the street from my house. So, I mean, to round back, Kat, to, your very beginning, it's very difficult. These are real family members. These are very real people who truly, you don't talk to them. Like the teachers know this is, oh, you say Dillinger and a new teacher comes in. It's like, oh, is that haha? No, you're not allowed to.
That's interesting.
No.
Because in Kentucky, the other state bordering Ohio, everybody claims they're related to Jesse James. So like everybody.
There's a few of those.
Yeah,
really?
Everybody's just like, oh yeah, I'm really, it's interesting that it's the exact opposite. Everybody claims that they have some sort of blood. Maybe they do. I mean, but
but we can prove it now.
I
mean, it's kind of interesting that the difference, but like you said, it's hard as a family when there's somebody known for something, serious like that.
I can't imagine. Could you imagine?
I got insight on it because I had the opportunity to speak to H.H. Holmes's grandson.
Oh, really? How had you never mentioned that?
Oh,
she's mentioning it now.
I'm mentioning it now.
Did you know that?
All in due time.
And it's the trauma, the family trauma that the Mudgett family, which is his actual given name, has had coping through and understanding the trauma that he was not a nice guy. He was not a nice guy to his family. He obviously was a monster to his victims. And the constant worry that kind of mental abnormality could be passed down to the rest of the family. So he was concerned. He's like, what if I go bananas like my grandfather? And I'm like, I don't think it would have come. No, but I mean, you weren't locked in a closet with a skeleton when you were a kid, that I know of. And you didn't seem to suffer that same type of trauma, but it's a generational trauma that they carry and will for a while, unless they're seeing a therapist or getting counseling somewhere. Because that is a type of trauma that most people do not usually hold. But there's generational traumas that happen. What is it? The McCoys and
the Hatfields.
And the Hatfields. That is a generational trauma. We see that with a lot of wars that are happening in other parts of the world. Generational trauma just being recycled over and over again.
Well, and it's hard to forget it when it happened so long ago that they would have descendants. You would think it'd be fun to be glib and talk about it and not realizing that no, they did have children and then they had children. And of course they know the story. And Yeah.
Well, we had the grandson of Plump
Yeah.
Yes,
that
yes,
contacted
they
us after we reported on that.
that was really
So
interesting. Yeah.
it
Mhm.
was, and so yeah, there are living families. They're living history basically,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and they may even carry insight that normal historical record hasn't been privy to yet.
Exactly. You
Well,
know,
how
and
could you I even like knowing journalists how I do, you can contact them and talk to them as it happened, and
Mhm.
either they're going to talk to you or they're not.
Mhm.
And I think Janice, when we had Janice on about the Widmer trial, I don't think
Mhm.
Sarah's family has ever spoken to
Mm-mm.
the media. So, how do you approach that, especially even 100 years later? Like, I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where when mediums are able to read somebody and give like when if I have to read somebody, I don't like to read other people, but I'll be like when we watched Amanda, I think,
Mm.
yeah, do it at the Historical Society.
That
You're
was so
asked,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, you're asking specifics. You're going, what are some specifics to the individual I am talking to that will help convince them that I'm speaking to you?
Mm.
So it's those kind of
Mhm,
clues.
mhm.
So
And the thing that's interesting about that at least that I thought, because it was my first time seeing that. I mean, I'm a
mhm.
bit of a noob.
That was my
Um,
first time seeing somebody else read an
and the
entire
thing
room.
that's interesting about it is if let's say you asked a relative something that you would remember that they thought that you would remember, a lot of times what you remember of a situation and what they remember are very different.
Mhm.
So like if you talk to your aunt and you said, like in real life, if your aunt talked to, let's say my aunt met Kat at a store or something and said, oh, she'll know me by this blue dress I have. And then you'd say, oh, your aunt said something about the blue dress. And it's like, huh?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it meant something to them, but not to you
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you're seeing it from their context, not from your context. And from what
Mhm.
I gathered, that was what made it difficult, is because the way you take in the world is different from how this person did, and how they took you in was different. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm,
Yeah.
that's
mhm.
why it's so hard, like, for it to link up at first, I think.
Yeah, you're trying to
It's
translate things.
yeah. I
And you don't know
mean,
who this person is.
Chris, do you want to talk about my dad
Oh, interesting. Yes. Let's hear
Yeah.
more.
and the conversations you've had with him?
so okay. So like let me go to Christina, like to you're kind of and Kat with what you were just talking about as far as like reading people. I mean, like as a medium, that's like with Camp Chesterfield. I mean, that's what we're developing. We're developing doing that. And so when I say, yeah, we, it was okay, you're 25 people. This is who showed up this week, and you're reading for 25 people.
Oh, wow.
And that is part of, when you have to pass those tests in order to become become a reverend
Mhm.
within the spiritualist community. So it's very difficult. It's where I definitely I completely rely on my guides. Red Rock knows this person. Nope. I mean, he's kind of like that bouncer, we're like, okay, yes, you can come forward. Nope, not you. And kind of,
Mhm.
and it's all about, like I told Jen, I'm like, I'm going to totally date myself there right now, but I'm like, I say who, I say when, I say who, quote Pretty Woman there, for the younger people. But yeah, so, and there's a lot of negative and black and darkness, but as spiritualists, we believe we're passing on the positive and not that. So since Jen's moved into this particular house, I came in when you very first moved in, and it was like, brought a housewarming present, was like, yay, this is really awesome. And I was like, whoa, who are you? um and I was just like, you're her dad? was very tall and imposing.
Yes. Oh my God. Sorry.
No,
Like,
Kat's seen him too, apparently.
and I'm extremely short, so he's extremely tall and
Yeah.
really imposing.
He's not. He was like 6 feet.
I'm 5'2".
Okay.
I was like, I'm 5'4". I grew to 5'5" by doing yoga. I'm very proud of that, but I'm still short.
Yeah.
So like, and your dad it wasn't like he was a tall, skinny man. You
No,
know, he's robust.
Like a bear.
Yes.
Yes.
And you know, he comes and he's like, "Oh my God, you can see me," and he's like, "You gotta say blah 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 blah." And I was like, first off, I don't know who you is. I know that you are somehow like, I'm having this conversation and I'm like, I know. And I realistically,
at least he introduced himself to me. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm her dad. And I'm like,
Oh, that's
okay.
so sweet.
Yeah. But I think that was after talking to you, Kris.
because, you know, I mean, as we were talking, you've been in this house for what, almost 13 years, 12 years?
Almost
Something like
14.
that? Almost 14. Yeah. So, okay, let's go backwards that. And very, very new to like allowing my gifts to like really come through and whatever. And I'm just like, oh, okay, hold on. I was like, that's your dad. Holy crap. And then I would start like asking her questions. I'm like, so do you have any pictures of your dad? And you know, it's like just trying to find out a little bit because like she was not in the headspace ready to hear anything.
Still not.
Yeah.
But way less so.
Well, that's what you keep saying.
Because it's true. But that's okay. You've opened up a lot. And again, I think you underestimate how much because Raindrop showed herself like to you. That's
I didn't see her. I
huge.
just heard her.
That's still clairaudience.
Well, that's true.
You know, it's actually almost more open because you didn't have to see, but you heard. That's physical evidence proof. You heard it.
Yeah.
So yeah. So he's, you know, I was just like, okay, you're gonna have to give me a minute. And he's like, yeah, you're right. So we had many conversations between the two of us on how to relay the message that he really, really, really wanted to tell her. And took many, many, many years because it was just a few months ago that I finally told you the message.
Oh, it's been like a year.
Has it
It's been
okay,
since we've started the podcast because I've told them.
Okay, so it's timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, you know.
It all goes back to Doctor Who, really.
Of course.
Yes, always. But yeah, so, you know, I finally told her, you know, what the message was. And I was like, oh, thank God. That's been like,
yeah, he takes a while.
Well, and we kind of were talking a little bit one weekend she was over and I was asking questions and apparently he was asking questions and Christine was a little like, stop it. You're coming at me too strong, both of you.
Yeah.
So she has offered to do like an official reading for me, but I have not really taken her up on that.
Hold up. Actually, I think what I said last night was it would be really interesting if I could do a reading for you.
Oh, you did? Oh, well.
Yes. I definitely believe that I could, but it would
But
it would
previously you have offered a reading before last night. And I'm just like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I was excited that one day when we were kind of talking, you know, and I don't know. It's kind of easier just not to open that door sometimes because you don't know what you're going to get back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's fear.
Well, and especially since I didn't really know my dad. You know, I was 15, just going on 16, and when he died, and he obviously didn't want to die. He was 43, which is the age I am now.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, they were parents divorced at 3. I only saw him once a month for a while, and he didn't want us around when he was sick because he didn't want us to go through that because he had to witness that with his mom. But I don't really know who he was other than my dad. and he was always goofy and playful because we were kids, and he would throw us over his shoulder and call me a turkey when I was acting like a little shit, and made me sit on the damn emergency brake in a stupid truck because I was skinny and I was the kid, and my sister got the stupid seat. Dad.
Wow. Can I mention the energy that he just gives off, at least to me?
Oh, sure.
Oh,
It's totally plaid and wood paneling.
Really?
I love that
It's just
plaid
plaid
and
and
wood
wood
paneling.
paneling, and I'm just like, that's.
He
just
never
like,
wore plaid, though.
I know, but it just keeps
You don't
getting
know that.
green and
Yes, I do.
yellow and black plaid. And I remember having this conversation with you before when I said, yeah, your dad's popping in.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know what it's that aesthetic of kind of not woodsy, but
Yeah, he was burly. He looked burly.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
yeah.
So
he when he was older, he had a big beer belly.
yes.
I don't know if it was necessarily beer, but I don't think he really drank all that much. But he had a full
Beard.
salt and pepper beard.
Mm-hmm.
I have his forehead, thanks, Dad.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And his
And he had
cheekbones.
his hair back to here, okay, but it was shoulder length.
Mm-hmm. So
Yeah.
Christina, if you want
yeah.
a good image, he looks a lot like Eamon.
Oh, okay.
So I was very confused the first time I saw him standing behind you, because I'm like, dude, what are you doing there? And then I'm like, oh, that's not Eamon.
Well, when
that's
first
Jen's
told
dad.
me,
And he
I
goes,
was like,
"Hi,
well, it could have been my brother because the way you were describing him.
yeah.
And my brother and I have different fathers. But in going through all of my old photos, I'm like, I keep asking my aunts, I'm like, are you sure we have different dads? Because they look an awful lot alike. And knowing my mom, she never would have told me that, I don't think. So I don't know what to believe. I mean, my uncle Dave, who has known my mom since she was a teenager, is like, no. Well, it's just the way the picture is.
No, there's always concealed things in families, so one never knows.
Well, I don't think we'll be unpacking Jen here right now.
No.
Well,
but I thought it could have been my brother, so I called him after the podcast. I'm like, I just want to make sure you're still alive and you're not coming to visit me to tell me you've died.
Oh my God, he was probably like, what the?
Yeah, he just laughed at me.
Why do my readings always freak people out?
So
I also freaked out Katie. Remember that?
Yes.
Poor girl won't talk to me anymore.
No, that's not true. Look, Katie will respond to this.
Yeah, sure. She will.
She listens to that. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie. I didn't mean to freak you out with dead people.
Do you see people attached to almost everyone, or does it just depend on, like, if they're open and you're open? I mean, it sounds like he's very visibly around Jen, and that's really interesting.
But it wasn't always. That's the fun.
Well,
it could have been
not always.
Yeah.
It has come up a lot these past few years because my grandfather died. And going through his stuff and finding these old family 8mm videos that I didn't know existed, all these photos I didn't know existed. It's frustrating not knowing who that part of my family was because they did not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you would ask, either they were too old, they couldn't remember, or like my great aunt would be like, because she was a proper lady, she's like, he was just like, her father apparently was a real SOB, and that's pretty much what she left it at, and we never heard anything more. So
interesting.
But I want to know those things. I want to know that family history because I think I know most of that family history on my mom's side, and I grew up hearing those stories, and I feel like I know that side as well as I can as being a child, your parents. So who knows? And, my aunts are never going to tell me truly what my mom would say or think about us.
Of course
when they
not.
would
Of
talk
course,
about their kids. No.
Yeah.
So it's just, I kind of think that's why maybe Dad has been around, because I've been struggling with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it is hurtful
Mhm.
because I tried before he died, and
Mm-hmm.
he shut me down
No.
because I don't think he could handle that. I don't think he could answer those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I had enough wherewithal at 16 to know my dad's not going to be here. I need to ask these questions now. And it just, he couldn't. So it is what it is. I tried to ask those questions of my mom, and I did, and I can't remember them now.
No.
Oh man.
But, you know, it is what it is, you know.
Mhm.
That's why I tell people to record their conversations with their parents.
Mhm. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so important to talk to them, you know,
Yeah.
while they're still with you.
Yeah.
Now, I know this is a big segue. We're probably about an hour and a half, but you had also mentioned ghost cats at Jen's house.
Yeah.
And I don't need to tell it. People know that I'm a crazy cat lady, so I was just curious about who you is. This just a cat that just hangs around the house still, or who do you think you encountered today? And you said you'd encountered it before.
Yeah, I've had it before. And I told her this morning, I was like, what? She's like, well, I had the new cat jumping all over me. I was like, well, I had a spirit cat jumping all over me. It may have been her former cat. She asked me if it was my baby who passed, but no, it wasn't him. I didn't get the feel that it was Freckles Kitty.
My kitty before Betsy.
Right. I mean, honestly, like right now, I almost think it was Mouse.
Mouse?
I know.
Oh, Mousy.
So, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Interesting.
Mouse was my sister's cat. So do you remember the flood of 93 in St. Louis where the entire Mississippi River from top to the bottom of the country flooded?
Yeah.
Mouse was a victim in that.
Aww.
So, and she was a teeny tiny kitty, and she fit in my sister's hand.
Aww.
And my mom and my sister just came home one day with her.
Oh.
And she was my sister's cat. And then she went away to college, and I was still in high school and in the house. And I used to sleep. I would take a shower at night and sleep with wet hair. And she would always sleep on my head.
Aww.
So she was really kind of my cat until my sister, came back, and then, and Mouse.
Well, cats, you don't necessarily you can't force a cat to, like, you don't really own them.
Oh no, they totally
decide who they like. So
yeah.
You don't know that the cat bonded with your. I mean, I always like to think that my former cats are bopping around, but I don't know if they are. But
sometimes,
yeah.
Well, and what was our pet sidekick? What was her name again? That we had on. She said there was a black cat sitting on my shoulder when she did our. Read us. Yeah,
it was last year.
Yeah,
Cindy.
We had two.
Cindy.
Yeah.
Cindy and Monica. Yeah. I mean, I always like to think that our three cats that are no longer with us, are still kind of bopping around, hanging around,
So my baby, I've got him tattooed on my wrist. He's always with me. And he and I were like this. Just he was my best friend. He was, and he didn't like anybody.
That's how my cat Boris was.
Yeah. And so actually, and he was huge. He was enormous. He was like 25, 27 pounds, something like that. And yeah, it gets me. Yeah. But anyway, he decided that I needed to, he was going to replace himself, and gave us 3. I was like,
whoa.
And they each one of our calico cats have found us individually. They multiple different times and they were in desperate need of help, and I had no intention of having another cat. Absolutely not. I was not.
No, you were talking about having a dog then.
Yeah,
getting a dog.
Yeah. I was. And then they started showing up. And so, by the way, in that bio that you did very well, Kat, at trying to pronounce the youngest ones.
I tried.
The youngest one. My husband named her. I named the first two. And then my husband named this one after Leo Tolstoy's wife, who was Duchess Sophia Alexandrovich.
Those are serious names.
Those are serious names.
She's a hellion.
I read that and I was like, oh no. I saw that written down. I'm like, oh no.
No. But so he would come in and he would, like, every single one that we had, he would come in and like kind of acclimate them. And kind of like, this is her. This is who you're supposed to be with now. And so they like kind of took that on, which was not him at all. But, like, I mean, he was mine, and I truly lost a part of my soul. And yeah, so like one of the very first readings I ever had done on myself, it was actually read to the little girl sitting in front of me, but it was mine. And they were like, we see this panther draped over your shoulders. And he was huge and he was all black. And I always I was like, oh, you're my little panther. And he would do that. And it's exactly how he would sit and be very protective. And so I'm back behind this like 12-year-old girl. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm just like bawling. And I'm just like, yeah, that was mine. That was for me. So, cause she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, sorry.
Oh man.
Yeah. And it's her fault. I have 2 cats now.
Oh, Chris's fault?
Not the 12-year-old? Because Betsy was her husband's grandmother's cat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then they found Clover just walked up to Ryan one day.
Clover was like, we have a couple of neighborhood cats around, and like the neighborhood cat whisperer is across the street from us, and he like helps, like he's got huts for them and protection from the wind, and so she's been around for like 2 years or whatever, and she was an alpha, and then some other nasty cat came in and kicked her out like altogether. And so she was just out and about, and so sweet, so incredibly sweet.
She's sassy.
But so I named her Clover because she looks like she's got a little white clover on her face, and so I was like, Jen, I really hate to do this, but do you want to see photos of this cat? She's like,
nope.
No.
But the minute she told me about her, I'm like, God damn it, that's my cat now.
No.
Yeah,
that's really sweet.
It was.
That is sweet. That's really nice.
So see, everything happens. I mean, everything comes back around.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well,
on that note.
Jinx. This is a great place. Thank you for joining us tonight, Kris.
We'll
have to have you on again. I think we all need. I think we all need to go to Camp Chesterfield. I mean, do you have to be sensitive to go there?
No, not at all.
Okay, because I was going to say
when you leave. Yeah,
you will be. And I am a very big proponent in there too. Like, and it's an immersion, experience, and they've got like all the, like they've got a Hindu garden, they've got a Christian garden, they've got the they've got like the Egyptian monoliths. They are very good at being very inclusive to a whole bunch. And so they're just kind of, and there's paths through the woods, and they've got multiple different chapels and different things like that. So they're just like, please come, all are welcome. And so we'll have to like look at their website, see if there's any dates or events that you guys might be interested, or time frames.
Oh, definitely. We should do a weekend there or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then Crown Hill, of course.
Yes. Oh my, that will be a spiritual party.
That's there's a lot. Your Sam's going to be working your overtime.
Oh my goodness. Sam is just like, must we?
Yes, we must, Sam.
Must we
Yes,
do
we
that?
must.
All
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I would be really interested to learn more about, how one sees these, guides and that sort of thing.
Meditation helps.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, just relaxing yourself at the end of the day. That could be taken several different ways. Yeah, sorry.
And any of those ways are a way to relax and
They
be
are.
open.
It
I
is.
don't know. My husband always says I have, instead of having an angel and devil on the shoulder, he says I have two devils that egg each other on.
That's Jen. There's also Jen.
Yeah, he's like, one's going, do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
How bad can we do it?
You have
I
very
know.
enabling spirit guides.
I know. Yeah, I know. I have no restraint.
The poor doctor in the back is just like,
I give up.
I'm so
I
tired.
know. Because Troy always gets concerned whenever I start talking about something. He's like, whenever you start talking about something, you do it. What's going on?
Yeah, I get that. Yep.
I
All
said,
right.
I just have no restraint.
No.
Okay.
Well, wonderful. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Yes,
we'll have
thank
you
you.
definitely
Pleasure.
on again. And maybe it would be like a remote thing where we could go. I mean, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, take us out of here, Kat. I'm going to
All
put the
right.
big screen
So,
on, and thanks so much for coming. And,
yeah. Thank
to-
you, everyone, for joining us for this wonderful mystical episode of the Cincinnati Cabinet of Curiosities presents the Hometown Haunts podcast. I am your host, Kat Cloco, and of course, you can catch up to all of our mystical little adventures at Sin Cabinet Curio on Twitter, at Cincy Cabinet of Curiosities on Instagram, and also share your hometown haunts, creepy cryptids, or other weird history tales from your hometown, and send them to hometownhauntedmail@gmail.com, and also join our Facebook group, Hometown Haunts. As for me and everyone else on our crew, stay spooky